Hey, everybody. Welcome to NextGen ProServ podcast, a podcast where I bring on industry disruptors and brand new executives in the Cleveland area. I'm joined by my friend Hannah. Hey, Hannah, thanks for joining the podcast.
Hi, happy to be here, Molly.
I'm so glad you're here. Can you introduce yourself just a little bit as we open up the conversation about your role today? And we'll even go through your career path. You've had some really cool experiences since we've known each other as young grasshoppers and through our college careers and everything you've done. So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah. So in 2019, I joined at a marketing technology company called Brand Muscle, and I started off in our graphic operations department there. And then more recently, I moved to client success delivery, and then my current role is in client partnership. And over the last year as well, the company was bought by another company called Ansira. So I now work for Ansira. And Ansira is also a marketing technology company that helps brands to drive brand to local growth. So working with distributed ecosystems, corporate partners, and then their dealers, franchisees, and um, partners on their end. So it's a combination of platforms, and it's a professional services technology
It's
that we
awesome.
offer
Yeah.
as, a software as a service company.
It's like a perfect little like swoop in for our podcast for next gen too, because that software and services story, a lot of people are listening in just to hear advice about how to get started in a career in software. And honestly, a lot of our networks from the operations side, and you've had these different roles in graphic
Mhm.
ops and now client ops. Yeah, just really happy to have you here.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. Yeah,
what
I've had
are
quite a winding path to get here.
yeah. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say like what are the like kind of pro tips you would have for anyone thinking about getting into this industry? And even share a little bit about what you were doing before picking a company like Brand Muscle, now Ansira, to get your feet wet in software.
Yeah. Well, so I started off in a totally different world in architecture. So my background and education is in architecture, the built environment. And I eventually learned that that career path was not for me. And I really started to look at how I was going to pivot from that into marketing. But I knew I needed to find a path that was going to take the experience I had each step of the way and leverage it for the company I was going to work for. So my first role outside of architecture was doing marketing for a landscape architecture company. So that pivot into marketing while still taking the knowledge I had in the built environment really helped me branch into a new career path. And then taking that marketing experience and pivoting that into Brand Muscle, which was a marketing technology company. But what I leaned on in that first role was more of that graphic design element of my background and my education and working on the graphic operations side. So, whether it was the tools that I had learned along the way, I was able to leverage, knowing those tools and how that would help the company from a graphics standpoint, but with marketing technology. And then from that role, again, pivoting. So pivoting to where I am now and where I wanted to be of now taking each role I had and how do I leverage what I've learned in that role into the next role? And how do I bring something from what I've learned while learning a new skill? So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I got to where I am. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's really organic, which I love about it because you just keep flexing these skills and following along with your journey. We've brought people along our career paths when we met together
Mhm.
at that job and have this really
Yeah.
swell of unique experiences and people getting into software, which has been awesome to see from data and analytics to technology to customer success. And that was just a really wonderful place to work and
It
just really
was.
excited about Ansira's future now, bringing together
Mhm.
all these different companies and you kind of rising into this next chapter.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Yeah, it's
from
been fun doing like starting that journey with you and when we started at Brand Muscle and then just seeing, yeah, how both of our paths have gone from there and how it branches off. And I think that's what's cool about a job and career path in technology, is that you can go many different directions with it based on your interests and what you find that you like. So, yeah.
hmm hmm Stepping into like an account client facing leadership role, what are the couple of like big items that you knew you needed to like check that box? Like I need to learn to do this, this, and this on the first, even like 30, 60, 90 days of taking on this new role. What are you learning today?
Yeah, being mindful of revenue growth and combining the product knowledge. So what I bring into the role is a strong knowledge of the products and the platform, and then combining that with how do we help our clients to grow their business, to grow in the platform, and to offer bigger, better things to their dealers or end users. So combining those two things, because it's not just about revenue growth, you want to make sure that it makes sense for your clients. So you're not just pushing, a new product just to push a new product, but does that make sense for them, how they use the platform, but always looking for those opportunities. So um, switching into that mindset was certainly something I started to do in my old role. So I started to have those conversations with people who were in the client partnership team in that realm of, getting on a call with somebody and saying, hey, on this client status, I heard them talk about this pain point. I think this new product that we used on this other client would be a great tool for them, something that they would benefit from and we could leverage there for them. And so really starting to get my mind thinking of opportunities and how those would benefit the client based on pain points or things you're seeing. So
Yeah.
I knew I needed to start thinking that way before I even started the new role.
That's awesome. And the organic experience of doing that in your day to day, it's like natural sales, natural
Hmm.
account management within any role, right? People talk about all the time, like everyone sells.
Hmm.
And even in delivery, it's like, well, why would I suggest something that doesn't make sense or they're not ready? And it's like listening, like you said, for that time of need. And that's the
Yeah.
trusted partnership side that we
Yeah.
really grow into in our careers. I think back to like when we were right out of school starting how hard it was to be an individual contributor and thinking about like just getting tasks done. And now here we are
Hmm.
a decade later, it's far more strategic, thoughtful,
Yeah.
and it's more the long game. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you've been there multiple years, learned the product deeply. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. And it's hard. It's hard to meet people who are passionate about the products that they sell in addition to selling. So, it's
Yeah.
really unique and exciting for your
Yeah.
career there.
Yeah, it feels good to know the products and to be learning new products. I'm learning even more now on this side of the business because I'm learning of things that could potentially be coming, things that haven't been fully developed yet, and because in my old role, it wasn't until it was being implemented, that I was really getting to experience the product. So it's very exciting for me seeing even more of what the company can do and being on the forefront of the development of new products or just the application to different clients. And so that is exciting. I do love the all the different products that we offer, and I think it's really great for our clients who utilize us for like all across the board and who try to bring as many of the services to their dealers or end users as they can and to see how that like ecosystem is so beneficial as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, interesting. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like you were sharing with me before this that you do Salesforce Fridays and go
yeah.
through all of your accounts and opportunities. But talk to me a little bit about like how does that work and where are you documenting even like your customer's roadmap or
Mhm.
what's the difference between getting it into Salesforce versus the relationship and identifying long-term path? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, we definitely, I think speaking to Salesforce Fridays, like getting the team together. So in terms of how Ansira works with verticals. So getting your vertical together and really going through opportunities, getting those entered, moved, moving it from one stage to the next, talking through that with each other of where things are, what next conversations are happening. That really helps us to learn what other accounts are doing. We can't all have every account. So like we can use these opportunities to say, or these meetings together as a vertical to say what opportunities is that team doing that could apply to what I'm doing or something I could bring to my client. And then yeah, just getting together and brainstorming. We've done that as well as a larger team of brainstorming new products, like I mentioned, new products that are coming. So not even ones that have been entered yet, but like what we call them maybe lunch and learns, like what kind of meetings can we get on the calendar with product team and different stakeholders internally to learn about things that we're working on. And that's one way as well to develop that future pipeline.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a delicate balance of like entering that opportunity because now it's tracked against your target and everyone's very excited
Mhm.
and wants to know when's that going to close.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
there's like the art of like what you're saying, like that education on like what are the
yeah,
possibilities, when is it going to be the right time, and
yeah,
in
yeah,
our
because we're
world and like how we do account planning,
hmm
we do these like playbooks, right? So like QBRs are set on a calendar with the customer, and that's considered the playbook, the strategy playbook.
hmm
And how are we going to, from a software company perspective, like get those services and implementation projects at the time that makes sense for the customer? And
yeah.
I absolutely empathize with that, right? Like I don't want to put an opportunity in too early because then it's going to be committed in that time frame, right? And those playbooks or thinking about we use Certinia, so that's also kind of the
Mhm.
core foundation of what we do too. Is being able to say who are my customers and what are the projects going on and the people working on it. But then the other side, that strategy of the sales
Mhm.
function, or it doesn't even have to be sales. The playbooks sometimes can also just be like product adoption. So if they have
Mhm.
entitlements, I'm not sure if like Ansira has things like that where customer buys software and they are entitled to training packages where it's like it's bought in addition to what they have purchased for software. We put those on a plan.
Okay.
Or make sure customers are attending key events. We put that into their playbook. So kind
Oh,
of
that's neat.
interesting
Yeah.
from, yeah, Salesforce Fridays from like a weekly cadence
Yeah.
and figuring out like, okay, now for my customers, how do I plan out a 3-year plan? And
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going to start learning and getting really sticky and getting comfortable with our clients long term.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, and that's exciting. I like that you say you call it a playbook. Yeah, the with Salesforce and entering opportunities, like you said, like you don't just want to enter something just to enter something. It needs to be a meaningful opportunity, and then you also need to be mindful of moving it along. As it starts as an idea, but then you want it to be an actual benefit to your client. So, but then have you had that conversation with the client? Have you had that first meeting? And then that next step of putting together a proposal, just making sure you're moving it too. So it doesn't just sit there as this idea that's pie in the sky,
Yeah.
but like taking action. And I like kind of, yeah, how you put it, like these playbooks, putting a playbook together of thinking of things kind of holistically too,
Hmm.
which is
Well,
great.
and by vertical, right? So if you're
Yeah.
like all the customers that are in manufacturing need to address their long-term relationship with Ansira might look like implement this first, and then the playbooks in 6 months, we're going to talk about that. Or in 12 months, we're going to talk about this and keep
hmm
them moving. And the
Keep it
playbooks
moving.
help define so that
Yeah.
your role is really easy, actually. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of thinking of it. I like that. But yeah, it's definitely like something that I'm, again, new into this role and learning of like how to set up a cadence of meeting with the clients. How often do you meet with each client? When are you having these bigger opportunity calls and one-on-ones and things like that? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about like travel and or client on-sites. Does that happen often, or is everything mainly virtual? And are we swinging the AI route? Like, what's that look like for you?
Well, we are trying to do more in person. So I know that that's
Oh,
something
good.
that like the company is open to more of that as long as it makes sense. Especially, if you've got more local clients, like making that effort, if it doesn't take a plane ride and a hotel, like that's even better. Um, Finding out what cadence really works for the size of the client, seeing a big client maybe 4 times in a year, a smaller client maybe twice in a year, but looking for opportunities to combine a trip, here and there with, if they're in the same two clients in the same location or things like that. So there's definitely opportunity for more travel. I think it's again like starting to be more and more encouraged that we get that face-to-face time. I have not done an in-person QBR yet, but I know that this year I will be doing that. That will be coming. And I look forward to that. I think
Yeah.
that was one of the things about the role that I was, um, excited about that I was vocal about my like desire to do more of that with the client was to get in front of them, to build that relationship. And I think that you really can't beat in person.
No, I was gonna say even like our friendship over the years, this is one of the most like in-depth Zooms we've ever had where doing business
Yeah,
locally and having those relationships absolutely makes sense. So, um,
yeah.
it's kind of proving your point. I'm like, this is a little weird.
Yeah, because we
I'd rather
always
go
see
get a
each other in
coffee.
person. Yeah, I'm so used to seeing you face to face that seeing you over Zoom. Honestly, the last time we were on the Zoom call, I was like, it's actually weird seeing Molly in a screen.
Yeah. I think
So used
proof
to
in the
seeing you in
pudding,
person.
right? It's like
Yeah,
when you enjoy working with people. I mean, we were together there for a couple of years too, at
yeah,
least. It's like I just miss crossing
yeah,
paths in the hall, you know? It's great.
yeah. That is the argument, right, for being in office. Ansira will probably never go back full time to that model. We're a very global company.
Mhm.
And, like many technology companies these days are, which is something I love. I love being a global company. But it does mean that the, that traditional in office, everyone's in Cleveland who works on this team is kind of a thing of the past. We do still have an office, and just a couple weeks ago was in office with my whole team, or anyone who could. A couple of people flew in, and anyone who was local could come, and it was a great experience. And so I love that we have the option. We have an office, and we can do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we do the same, like the annual conferences that I look forward to. We just
yeah,
see people. It's like the
yeah.
whole why we exist.
You travel quite a bit. I mean, how
Yeah.
often are you traveling in a year, would you say, for op mentors?
I think it kind of comes and goes. Some years we just hit our flagship events that there are user groups for the product, there's sales kickoff conferences. Even Salesforce has world tours that are in all the major cities. So every year it's kind of like a strategic shift about like what you said, what city will I go to and who can I kind of pull all together in that area? And some
Yep.
years it's a sales focus, and other years it's current customer training and
Mm,
adoption focus. So that kind of swings a little bit. I would love to get a little bit more consistency. Because I'm with you. I love a good trip and breaking
yeah.
bread, as they say, like get a dinner, and it's just nice.
Yeah. It is nice. Yeah, you can't beat it. So,
Yeah. I like to wrap the podcast with the last question is what advice would you give your younger self?
ooh.
And, you know,
Um, I mean, just in terms of career advice and how that mixes with school, I would say um, to explore more career paths earlier on. Obviously, I love the path I took to get here. It was a winding road, and it led me to where I am right now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Um, but I do think I had blinders on at the beginning of my career journey, and wasn't really open to seeing other options in the business realm or marketing or things like that. So I think that advice to a younger me would be to not get so locked into just one path and think that that has to be it. Be open to exploring different careers and how that will look because you may end up somewhere totally different than where you think you will when you start college or and even end college. Um, and to get different kind of experiences, therefore, take uh, like an internship at a company that you don't really think aligns exactly with what you're majoring in or things like that. And I think if I had done that, I might not have gone to grad school for architecture and that I could have maybe started on this career path sooner. Again, happy with where I'm at, but like it could have saved me potentially going so far into a direction that wasn't for me. So just be open to
Yeah. Yeah.
different
I love
careers.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. I got early career advice that was just say yes.
I
Anytime
love that.
someone offered, like, hey, this is what I would love for you to try. Always yes. Oh, keep growing, keep doing whatever's next. So I love that.
Yeah,
Great.
that's great.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you
really
for
nice.
joining.
You're
I'm
welcome,
very
Molly.
happy to highlight our face-to-face friendship now virtual for the world to see.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Have a
great.
great weekend. And yeah, we'll check in. We'll do this again. We'll see how Salesforce Fridays went.
That sounds good. I would love
Thanks,
it.
Hannah.